Okay, real talk for a sec. Anyone else ever gets stuck in this like loop of shoulds? You should be going to the gym,
Yeah,
but
totally.
you should be working on that big project that's like looming over your head.
Uh-huh.
You should be texting that person back. But then I don't know about you, but for me it's like
Oh, yeah.
Netflix happens or doom scrolling or
Right.
just
Yeah. Like anything but the thing you actually should be doing.
exactly. So we're going to dive into something today that can help with this. It's called the 5-second rule, made famous by Mel Robbins. And it's basically this idea that when you have an instinct to act on something,
Mm-hmm.
you count down from 5, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Oh, okay.
and then you physically move.
Yeah.
You don't think about it, you don't debate it, you just move. Because Mel says, and science backs her up, that if you don't move within that 5 seconds, your brain is just going to squash that instinct,
Right.
and you're going to be back to square one. So what do you think?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it? This idea that something so simple could actually tap into our, neurobiology, using that countdown to sort of shift control from like those more primitive habit-driven parts of our brains
Yeah.
to the prefrontal cortex, which is like the CEO of decision making, right?
Okay, I'm liking the sound of this already. But you know me, I need to see some like real world proof.
Of course.
Like, does this thing actually work? Because there's a lot of these like, self-help hacks out there.
Right.
They sound good in theory, but do they actually hold up in like the trenches of everyday life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what we're diving into today. We're going to unpack the science behind the 5-second rule.
Okay.
We're going to look at how it's helped people make huge changes,
Ooh,
from conquering procrastination to, building confidence, even transforming relationships. And I think we're going to have some fun along the way.
I hope so, because getting unstuck shouldn't feel like a chore, right?
Right. And what's really compelling is, how Mel Robbins herself discovered this rule.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It didn't come from like, a lab or a self-help guru. This came from her own personal struggle, like her own rock bottom moment.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So paint me a picture. What was going on with Mel back in 2009?
Okay, so picture this. She's 41, unemployed, like drowning in debt, dealing with a drinking problem.
Oh, wow.
Her career has tanked. Her husband's business is on the verge of collapse. And basically, she's hitting the snooze button on life.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, feeling totally overwhelmed, like no matter what she does, she keeps sinking deeper.
Oof. I mean, I think a lot of people listening can probably relate to that, even if the specifics are different, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Just that feeling of being like trapped
Yeah,
and overwhelmed.
like you're on a hamster wheel going nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that universal feeling of being stuck. Procrastination, self-doubt, fear. I mean, Mel's story is a powerful reminder that, we all face challenges, and sometimes it feels like those challenges are going to swallow us whole.
So she's in this really dark place, hitting the snooze button every morning, pretty much ready to give up. And then, boom, like the light bulb moment.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Did she win the lottery? Divine intervention.
Not quite. It was actually a rocket launch. I kid you not.
Right.
She's about to turn off the TV,
Yeah.
and she sees this rocket blasting off into space. And suddenly it hits her. She's like, if that rocket can launch itself out of this world, I can at least launch myself out of bed,
Okay, maybe a little crazy, but,
Yeah.
sometimes those aha moments come from unexpected places.
Yeah.
So was she literally going to, like, blast herself out of bed?
Not literally. I mean, the important part was that mental shift, right? The countdown became a way to break free from that feeling of inertia. Like all that thinking and feeling that was keeping her stuck, it was like a jolt to her system, a way to just like bypass all the overthinking.
So instead of lying in bed, debating the pros and cons of getting up, she's using this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as a trigger to just do it.
Yeah, like a launch sequence.
Okay, I like that. But, gotta ask, is there any like science behind this? Or is it just some, quirky motivational trick? Because sometimes those self-help hacks sound good in theory, but do
Yeah.
they really hold up?
And that's what's so interesting. There's actually a lot of neuroscience that supports this 5-second rule, specifically in how it interacts with our brain's habit loops, those automatic pathways that control so much of our behavior.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for me. What's going on in our brains when we use this countdown?
Okay. Imagine your brain, right? It has all these well-worn paths, like grooves in a record, that dictate your habits, good and bad. So when you want to change a habit, you need to interrupt that groove, that automatic response, and shift control to a different part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. which again is like the command center for decision making and change.
So it's like switching tracks on a train,
Yeah.
like forcing our brain to take a different route.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
The 5-second countdown is that switch.
Okay.
It interrupts the automatic habit loop,
Okay.
those ingrained grooves, and it gives your prefrontal cortex a chance to take the wheel. Like you're hacking your brain's autopilot.
That's wild. So you're saying that something as simple as counting backwards can, like, rewire our brains.
I mean, not entirely rewire, more like, create new pathways, new grooves in that record,
Right.
and strengthening those connections that support, the behaviors we want to cultivate.
Right.
Think of it like building a new muscle.
Okay.
It takes repetition and effort,
Yeah.
but the more you use it, the stronger it gets.
So it's not about, like, willpower or motivation alone.
No.
It's about understanding how our brains work and, like, working with them, not against them.
Exactly. It's like harnessing the power of your own neurobiology to create real change.
Okay, I'm really starting to see how this works now.
Huh?
And I'm definitely feeling motivated to put it into practice.
Good.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
let's take a closer look at one of the most common and frustrating struggles that we all face: procrastination. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back after the break
All right.
to unpack exactly how the 5-second rule can help us conquer that beast once and for all. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a flash.
So are you ready to, really dive into this 5-second rule thing?
Oh, yeah. Hit me with it.
Because we're about to tackle, procrastination.
Ooh, that's my specialty. I'm like the queen of procrastination.
But, first we need to understand what we're dealing with, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Procrastination isn't just, laziness or, poor time management.
Yeah.
It's actually a coping mechanism.
Wait, really?
Our brains are trying to protect us from stress and negative emotions.
So you're telling me that when I'm, like, binge-watching reality TV instead of working on that presentation,
Yeah.
I'm actually, like, trying to manage my stress?
Yeah, exactly. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, right?
Okay.
So when we're faced with a task that feels, overwhelming or stressful,
Mm-hmm.
our brains look for an escape route, and procrastination is that temporary relief.
So it's like reaching for a donut when you're feeling down.
Perfect analogy.
It's like a quick fix that makes you feel better in the moment, even though you know it's not really helping in the long run.
Right. It gives us a hit of dopamine, that feel-good chemical, makes us feel better momentarily. But then, of course, the guilt and the overwhelm come back, usually with a vengeance, because that task is still there.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. But knowing all of this doesn't exactly help me stop procrastinating, you know?
Yeah.
Like, how do we actually break free from this cycle?
And that's where Mel Robbins comes in with the 5-second rule. She suggests, a 3-step approach.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, stop beating yourself up about procrastinating. Remember, it's a natural response, not a character flaw.
Easier said than done. I'm like the queen of self-criticism.
But that negative self-talk just makes it worse, right? It increases your stress, makes you more likely to procrastinate. It's a vicious cycle. So step 1, self-compassion.
Okay, so give myself a break.
Exactly. You're human, We all struggle with this.
Yeah.
Okay. Step 2, connect with your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the person you want to be, the goals you're working towards.
Hmm?
How is procrastination holding you back?
So, like, remembering my why,
Hmm.
connecting to the bigger picture.
Yes. Tapping into your intrinsic motivation, reminding yourself that the discomfort of doing it now
Yeah.
is way less than the regret of not doing it at all.
Okay, steps 1 and 2, check. But step 3, that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Right.
How do we actually make ourselves do the thing?
The 5-second rule.
Okay, so I'm staring at my to-do list,
Yeah.
feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
My hand is, like, hovering over the Instagram icon. What do? Do I just, like, count backwards and suddenly I'm a productivity machine?
Well, it's not magic, but
All
it's
right.
close.
All right.
That countdown acts as a circuit breaker. It interrupts that impulse
Okay.
before it takes hold.
Okay.
Shifts control from those primitive parts of your brain to the prefrontal cortex, the part that wants to achieve your goals.
So I 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and immediately dive into work.
Exactly. The key is to act before your brain can talk you out of it.
Okay.
That 5-second window is like a magic portal.
Got it.
Once you step through it, you're in action mode.
So it's about creating that sense of urgency, right?
Yes.
Like overriding that inertia that keeps us, scrolling through our phones or watching Netflix.
And once you start working, you'll probably find that it's not as bad as you thought it would be.
Right.
The hardest part is getting started.
Okay.
The 5-second rule is just that little push.
I'm starting to see how this could apply to, like, all sorts of things, right?
Right.
Like exercising, cleaning, having those difficult conversations we'd rather avoid.
It's like a universal procrastination antidote.
Okay, I'm liking this more and more. But what about when we're dealing with like deeper stuff?
Mm.
Not just procrastination, but like fear and worry.
Mm-hmm. That's where Mel's own experience with anxiety is so valuable.
Yeah.
She's incredibly open about her struggles with panic attacks, which I think makes her insights so relatable.
It's like she gets it.
Yeah, she's been there.
Yeah.
And one of the most valuable things she talks about is that trying to calm down when you're anxious can actually backfire.
Oh, really?
It's like putting out a fire with gasoline.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if we can't calm down, what are we supposed to do?
There's a better way. It goes back to the idea of reframing. Remember we talked about how anxiety and excitement create similar physical sensations?
Uh-huh.
So instead of suppressing those feelings of arousal,
Yeah.
we can use them to our advantage.
So it's about like harnessing that nervous energy and turning it into something positive.
Exactly. And the 5-second rule is the tool to make that shift.
Okay.
Instead of getting stuck in those anxious thought loops, we 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and redirect our focus to something exciting and empowering.
I see. So it all comes back to that 5-second rule, right?
It does.
Like understanding our brains, using tools like reframing to interrupt those negative patterns, and creating positive change.
Precisely. And a great example from Mel's book is her experience overcoming her fear of flying.
Oh, wow. That sounds terrifying.
She used to have like debilitating panic attacks every time she got on a plane.
I can't even imagine.
So she realized she needed a more like proactive approach, right?
Yeah.
Something to address the root of her fear.
Okay.
And that's where she combined the 5-second rule with this powerful visualization technique. She calls it anchor thoughts.
Anchor thoughts.
Okay, think of an anchor thought like a mental image that you can focus on.
Okay.
To ground yourself in the present moment. And shift your attention away from the fear.
Oh, I like that.
In Mel's case, when she was flying, she would visualize herself at her destination doing something she loved.
So it's like creating a mental escape route.
Yeah, like a safe haven.
Yeah.
When those fear monsters start closing in,
Okay.
that anchor thought becomes a lifeline, a way to interrupt the anxiety spiral.
I love that. It's like we're training our brains to respond to fear in a new way, not letting it control us.
Exactly. And she would use the 5-second rule to activate that shift. When those anxious thoughts came up, she would 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and immediately bring her anchor thought to mind.
It's like flipping a switch in her brain.
Yeah. From panic to peace.
Brilliant. But Mel didn't stop at conquering her fear of flying, did she?
Nope. She applied this technique to like all areas of her life, essentially rewiring her brain to respond to fear differently.
So it's like she developed a superpower.
Right. The ability to face her fears and come out stronger.
Okay, I'm really inspired by her story. But let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about procrastination, confidence, fear.
Yeah.
But what about relationships? How does this 5-second rule help us navigate, the messy world of human connection?
Good question. It gets to the heart of what Mel believes creates truly fulfilling relationships:
Okay.
courage and authenticity.
Oh, I like that.
She argues that we often hold back in our relationships, afraid to say how we feel, ask for what we need.
Yeah, I'm totally guilty of that. It's
Yeah.
like easier to just go along to get along. Right.
But Mel makes a really compelling argument for why it's so crucial to push past that fear and be authentic.
Okay.
When we hold back, we create distance and we prevent intimacy from developing.
So it's not about being nice all the time. It's about being real.
Yes.
Even when it feels risky.
Exactly. Having the courage to be vulnerable, to let people see the real you,
Yeah.
imperfections and all.
Okay, but that could be so scary.
Right. And that's where the 5-second rule comes in.
Okay.
It's a tool to push past those fears of rejection and vulnerability.
So how does that work in practice? Give me an example.
Okay, think about a situation where you've been wanting to have a tough conversation with someone. Maybe setting a boundary with a friend or expressing your needs to your partner.
Oh, yeah. Those conversations are the worst.
We often avoid them because they feel scary and uncomfortable.
Totally.
But what Mel suggests is use the 5-second rule to break through that avoidance.
Okay.
When you feel that urge to have the conversation, even if your heart is pounding,
Okay.
you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and just start talking.
Wait, seriously? No planning? No, rehearsing in the mirror a million times?
The point is to act on the instinct before your brain can overthink it.
Wow.
Trust yourself that what you have to say is important and deserves to be heard.
Okay, that is both terrifying and exhilarating.
It's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And the results can be incredible. Mel shares stories of people who have transformed their relationships by having the courage to, like, speak their truth,
Okay.
set boundaries,
Yeah.
ask for what they need.
That's so powerful. So the 5-second rule can be a catalyst not just for personal growth, but for deeper, more authentic connection with others.
Yeah, it's about closing that gap between what we feel and what we need to say.
Yes, even when it's scary.
Exactly. And it's not just about tough conversations, right?
Right.
You can also use it to express love and appreciation,
Oh, I like that.
initiate connection, make those small gestures.
So it's not just about pushing past fear.
Yeah.
It's also about being more loving and expressive.
Yes, showing up more fully.
Okay, I'm really seeing the potential here.
Yeah,
But let's talk about something else that's really important to me, and I think a lot of listeners too,
great.
discovering our passions.
Mm.
We've talked about procrastination, confidence, relationships.
Yeah.
But how does this rule help us uncover what truly lights us up? Like what makes our hearts sing?
That's a beautiful question. It gets to the core of what Mel believes is essential for a fulfilling life, living in alignment with our passions.
Okay.
She argues that we often get so caught up in the shoulds. Ugh, the shoulds?
The expectations.
Yes.
And we lose sight of what brings us joy and purpose.
I've been there. Spent years chasing a career path I thought I should pursue, only to realize it was making me miserable.
It's so common.
Yeah.
We're bombarded with messages about what we should be doing, what success looks like,
Yeah.
and we lose sight of our own internal compass.
So how do we reconnect with that? Like, how do we find those passions that might have been, like, buried under years of shoulds?
Mel suggests we start by paying attention to those moments of curiosity and excitement, those little sparks of interest.
Like when you get so absorbed in something that time just disappears.
Yes. It could be anything, reading a book, listening to a podcast, trying a new hobby.
Okay.
Those are breadcrumbs leading us back to what truly matters.
Okay, so we're noticing those sparks.
Yeah.
But then what? How do we turn them into something more, like something that can shape our lives?
And that's where the 5-second rule comes in.
Okay.
Instead of letting those sparks fizzle out, we use the countdown to take action. So I feel that spark, I immediately 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and sign up for that class.
Yes.
Buy that book. Reach out to that person who inspires me.
That's it. Giving yourself permission to explore, to follow those breadcrumbs.
Okay.
Passion often follows action.
I love that. It's like we're creating our own luck,
Yes.
opening ourselves up to new experiences.
And sometimes those passions turn into something much bigger than we ever imagined.
But, there's often this obstacle in the way, right? Fear. That voice in our heads that says, what if you fail? What if you look foolish?
It can be so crippling.
I know so many people with incredible dreams who are just paralyzed by those what if questions.
Mel talks about how fear is a natural part of the process, but we don't have to let it control us.
Okay.
She encourages us to reframe fear as a sign that we're on the right track,
Interesting.
that we're about to do something that really matters.
So instead of seeing fear as a stop sign, we see it as a green light.
Yes, it's fuel, not a barrier.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm feeling fear. That means I'm doing something meaningful, something outside my comfort zone.
And then that's where the 5-second rule comes in.
Right, to help us push past those fears and take the leap.
So when those doubts start to creep in, we went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and take action.
It's like saying to fear, nice try, but I'm not letting you run the show.
We're reclaiming our power, choosing courage over comfort.
And the more we practice this, the less power fear has over us. It's like we're building that muscle of courage.
Okay, this is amazing. It's like Mel Robbins has given us this roadmap,
Yes.
not just for a more fulfilling life, but for discovering and pursuing our passions. It's about recognizing those sparks, overcoming fear, and using the 5-second rule to take action.
And it's never too late to start.
I love that. No matter where you are in life, you have the power to create a new chapter.
Exactly. The power is within you, and the 5-second rule helps you access it.
Okay, I'm feeling incredibly inspired to start paying more attention to those sparks, Who knows what hidden passions are waiting to be discovered?
The possibilities are endless.
Exactly. And you know what?
But
I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the power of the 5-second rule. I was still thinking about all that stuff about passions.
Yeah.
It's like Mel Robbins is giving us permission to just ditch all those shoulds
Totally.
and like chase after what really lights us up.
Yeah.
You know,
It's about aligning our actions with our own values and passions.
not about like climbing the corporate ladder or chasing a bigger paycheck,
Right.
but like what makes our souls sing.
Exactly. And that's where the 5-second rule is so helpful.
Yeah.
It helps us actually take the steps to make it happen.
Because let's be real, sometimes we know what we're passionate about,
Uh-huh.
but we just get stuck in our heads.
Yeah, fear, doubt, procrastination. Big roadblocks.
I've totally been there. Like, talked myself out of
Yeah.
so many opportunities because I was afraid of failing or looking silly or whatever.
It's like we have these inner critics,
Oh, yeah.
just like throwing shade on all our dreams.
So how do we, like, get rid of them? How do we quiet those voices?
Well, Mel Robbins talks about how our brains are wired to, like, seek comfort and avoid risk.
Okay.
So even when we have this desire to try something new,
Hmm.
our minds come up with reasons why we shouldn't.
It's like our brains are overprotective parents.
Right.
Like, don't do that, you'll get hurt.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do we, like, break free from that?
Well, Mel says those fears are often just illusions,
Okay.
stories we tell ourselves that
Uh-huh.
aren't really true, and the 5-second rule can help.
Okay.
It's like a magic wand to dismantle those stories.
So when the doubts come up,
Yeah.
we 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just act.
Yes. Before your mind can talk you out of it.
It's like we're saying, hey, brain, I hear you, but I'm doing this anyway.
I love that.
So we're taking control, right? Choosing courage over comfort.
Exactly. And what's really inspiring,
Is that Mel emphasizes it's never too late to pursue your passions.
Okay, I love that.
Doesn't matter how old you are, what your background is.
It's like a fresh start.
Exactly. We always have the power to change.
And the 5-second rule helps us do that.
It's like a key to unlock your potential.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is so empowering. It's like Mel Robbins has given us this blueprint
Mm-hmm.
for creating a life that's like both meaningful and exciting.
Right. Embracing your passions, facing your fears.
And using the 5-second rule to just go for it.
Exactly. We're capable of so much more than we think.
And it's about the journey too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The ups, the downs, the challenges.
That's all part of it.
Okay, well, this has been amazing. I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive
Yeah.
into the power of the 5-second rule.
But before we go,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this. What's one instinct you're going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on today?
Ooh, good one.
Don't wait. The power to change is right here, right now. That's a great way to end it. So go out there, embrace the 5-second rule, create the life you've always dreamed of.
We're cheering you on.
And remember, you got this